a two-act play with Phoenix racing out to a 2-0 series lead at home behind Chris Paul. CP3 shot nearly 60% from deep and averaged 28 points per game in those two games. Then he cooled off a bit, averaging under 20 points per game from Game 3 on, committing 13 turnovers and shooting worse from inside and outside the arc. And the Suns' performance dropped as well, losing 4 straight to close out the finals. Phoenix shot 30% or worse from deep in 3 of the final 4 games. Kendrick Perkins back with us. Stephen A., another disappointing end to the season for CP3. Is this it for him? Has his championship window officially closed?
I think so. I really do. I hope I'm wrong. And who knows, he could end up departing from Phoenix because, remember, he's got a player option scheduled to be paid $44 million this year, but he can opt out and get a 2-year deal at about $70 million. A 3-year deal at about $100 million. You just never know with the money that's out there where he could end up. But assuming that he stays put, even though I expect Phoenix to make some noise because I believe in them, I just think that the West is getting stronger and stronger. Kawhi's probably going to stay with the Clippers. Unless that changes, they'll be formidable. We know that we believe the Suns would have lost to them if Kawhi had not gotten hurt. Anthony Davis and LeBron James will be back. We don't know where Damian Lillard's going to be moved to. Klay Thompson is expected to be back healthy. And you know, him and Steph will be there as well. Plus, they got 2 first-round picks, 2 top 15 picks in the upcoming NBA draft. And so I look at all of those things and I just say to myself, you know, to be 36 years of age, to be the best player on the court for the Phoenix Suns last night, to be in your 16th year, to be this close, and for this opportunity to slip through your fingers, you just found yourself thinking that this was CP3's lone chance, because I just brought up the West. I didn't bring up Brooklyn in the East. I didn't bring up Milwaukee in the East. I didn't bring up Philly in the East. I didn't bring up Atlanta in the East. Who knows who can end up in Miami? I didn't bring that up. I just think that it's too much of a daunting task to expect that at this point in time in his career that there's another opportunity laying down the road for CP3. I think it came and it went last night.
Yeah, probably. But you have to acknowledge, given how long guys are playing nowadays, given how well Chris Paul played this year, and given the fact that he could always ring chase, although Giannis boxed these dudes with what he said last night, like it's going to be a little bit harder for them to save face ring chasing now. But given that he could purchase it, he could say, all right, I'm going to take a little less money and go, or a lot less money and go join the Lakers, for example. But his championship window has closed with his Suns team, and in a larger way has probably closed. In other words, I don't think Chris Paul's future is one in which he is one of, let's say, the 2 best players on a championship team. You hang around long enough, you can be a nice addition to a team that will win a championship without being the best or maybe not the second best player on the team eventually. This, you pointed it out in the Western Conference. Golden State is going to be back next year to what they were pre-Durant, which is not what they were with Durant, but it was pretty damn good. It was great, in fact. The Lakers, if AD and LeBron stays healthy, I still like them better than everyone else. I don't think Kawhi is going to be there next year, given the nature of his injury, at least not as Kawhi Leonard until maybe later in the season, maybe not even then. Time will tell, but we don't even need to talk about the Clippers. Jamal Murray with the Nuggets, that's a whole lot, guys. Nuggets keep getting better. The Utah Jazz, if they stay healthy, the reason they had such a golden opportunity this year is because they were the healthiest team in the Western Conference. AD went down, LeBron was compromised, but AD went down, Jamal Murray wasn't there, and then Kawhi went down. He didn't play against them. That's why they got out of the West. This was Chris Paul's shot. That's why I thought so much of his legacy was riding on his play in games 5 and 6 to get to a game 7. And that's why I was rooting for him so hard, and I'm so disappointed today and sad for him. Guys, he could still wind up with a ring. But we all know what we mean when we say, like, he won a ring. We mean when he was a great, great player, when he had a team and was in the nucleus of the best players on the team. And I think that ship has sailed unless he really hardcore ring chases this upcoming season.
Well, I wouldn't say that. It all depends on what CP3 wants, right? I think that window is still open. And it all depends on what direction he want to go. Is he about his money, or he's about going to get an actual trying to get an actual ring. And Max, one thing I do agree with you on, he's not a first or second option guy right now. We saw that not going deep into the playoffs. He could get you through the regular season. He's a third option guy when it comes down to winning the championship. And I think, if he consider maybe join the Los Angeles Lakers, I think then that ups his chances. When you look at the Western Conference right now, you mentioned Jamal Murray. He's coming off an ACL injury. And as a guy that came off an ACL injury, yes, you are able to get back on the court 7 months later, but you're not at your full strength 100% from where you were till like 21 months later. And these are facts. And so when you look at the Western Conference and when you look at Kawhi Leonard possibly being out for the entire season, the West is really wide open. And the Lakers still have LeBron James and Anthony Davis and still could add pieces. You add a CP3 to that team, I think they'll be a heavy favorite to coming out of the Western Conference. And then after that, you let the chips fall where they may. You could rely on the healthy Anthony Davis. We saw what he was capable of doing when he was healthy, when he helped lead the Los Angeles Lakers to a championship, the type of numbers he was putting up during that run. So I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that the window is closed for CP3. It's on CP3 what's next for him and what he wants for us towards the end of his career, because Gary Payton won the championship late in his career when we thought the window had closed when he went down to South Beach.
Well, I will tell you this. Gary Payton was a contributor, but we rarely ever acknowledge Gary Payton as a champion. And that's not to take anything away from him. It's just that the Gary Payton that we saw in Miami, the Gary Payton that we saw in L.A. was not the Gary Payton we saw in Seattle. The glove that'll put you in lockdown mode and was clearly the star of that franchise along with Sean Kemp. So I get where you're coming from, Perk, but I would tell you this. Another component that we can't ignore is where Damian Lillard is going to end up, because obviously that could be another roadblock for CP3 as well, depending on where Damian Lillard ends up going, particularly if he stays in the Western Conference. In the end, what it comes down to is that there's nothing wrong with CP3 not being a 1 or 2 option, because as a quintessential point guard, he really isn't supposed to be anyway. He's supposed to be the guy that sets up opportunities for other guys so they can shine as 1 and 2 options. But he hasn't had that available to him. And unless he joins a franchise where that possibility is there for him, I don't see how he's going to win the championship with the multitude of teams that are legitimate, bona fide championship contenders.
Well, here's one way. Here's one way, Stephen A. I think the odds are slim, but it could happen. He's playing at a very high level. And nowadays, guys play later into 3 or 4 more years, more or less. Let's say he didn't leave the Suns. Booker will get better. You could see how hungry he was after the game. Like, he's going to learn from this experience. Ayton will get better. So maybe, even if there are at least 3 or 4 teams at least as good as them, if you take enough bites at the apple, one of those years they'll break through, maybe get a little lucky again with injury. That's possible. I want to say something about the Lakers. If CP3 opts out and signs for a deal that the Lakers can afford, because they're capped out otherwise, right? CP3, LeBron, and AD is the only possible answer for a healthy Nets team. I want to be very clear about this. The Nets this year, had they been healthy, would have smoked the NBA. No one would have gotten, I don't think anyone gets 2 games off them. I don't even know if the Lakers were healthy. The Lakers would have gotten 2. But with CP3, LeBron, and AD can counteract Kyrie, Harden, and KD. I don't know who wins, but that's an even matchup.
The problem with what you're saying, real quick, KP, the problem with what you're saying, Max, is this. Brooklyn's situation was of their own doing on 3 levels. Harden coming into camp out of shape because he wanted out of Houston, and ultimately that lingering hamstring injury, not being able to escape that. That had a lot to do with his condition. And I love Harden. I root for him, but that's a fact.
Yep.
Number 2, Kyrie Irving. All right, the ankle on all of that stuff might play a role, but remember, on at least 2 couple of occasions, I'm not talking about the birth of his kid. I'm talking about 2 previous occasions. He just took time off. It wasn't specific as to why that was the case, and you had people wondering about him. And number 3, the hiring of Steve Nash. Love Steve Nash, respect the hell out of him. We know where I stand on his hire because he had absolutely no coaching experience whatsoever. Kyrie Irving was on the record saying, we don't really need coaching, because Kyrie Irving was thinking about Kyrie. He wasn't thinking about those other young players who could have used seasoned, experienced coaching.
real quick,
so when
Stephen
you look
A.
at Brooklyn,
Bert.
when you look at Brooklyn and you talk about what got in their way, I'm sorry, Max, they have a lot to
Valid.
do with what
Valid.
got in their way.
Valid. That's all. Everything you said is valid. What I'm saying is this upcoming season, you have all that information still. Who you taking in the East?
I'm taking Brooklyn.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And if you want to say now who you taking for the title?
Are you taking Brooklyn for the title? Yeah.
If CP3 goes to the Lakers, then I don't know who wins the title if everyone's healthy.
Well, here's the thing that we all got to be mindful of at this moment, right? With Milwaukee winning the championship and now James Harden being officially on the Nets, right? Because the trade happened during the season. This is going to be an interesting offseason. So teams are going to get better. Teams are going to make moves. Guys are going to relocate to different situations. And I think we're going to all be sitting back saying, man, because right now, if I'm a free agent or if I'm a guy on the outside looking in that's looking for a ring or looking for a place to go compete for a championship, look, Milwaukee Bucks are eye candy to me. Playing with Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday, it's eye candy to me. So you just never know what could happen. Like, we just saw this with Golden